Hi everyone, NUSensei here. As an archer, I'm always appealed by new bows, new arrows, new equipment. As a new archer, you might be drawn by the same things, especially if you are into traditional archery. Classic bows made from classic materials. For example, this Turkish fiberglass bow, or this Korean fiberglass bow. Okay, so the bows may be made from modern materials, but they still look pretty cool, so we can look past that. The arrows, however, surely they have to be made from classic wooden shafts, like this gold-tipped traditional carbon arrow. Okay, this one is definitely a wooden shaft. So if you're looking at buying a bow or buying arrows, you're probably thinking of one of two things. Either you get the classic wooden shafts, or you get the modern carbon shafts. So why would you pick one over the other? So let's start with the wooden shaft. Many people shooting traditional or pure traditional, including flat bow, long bow, even some forms of Asiatic, will use wooden shafts. This, of course, is the original arrow material and the original bow material. Some rule sets will only allow you to use wooden shafts. So it makes sense for you to use wooden shafts. And again, there is some aesthetic to it. It is the natural material. It's what we started making arrows from. So if you're looking for the complete purist archer set, there is that traditional appeal, if not required, for traditional shooting rule sets. There are, however, significant problems. The first significant factor is that a wooden shaft is nowhere near as consistent as a carbon shaft. Wooden shafts are softer, they won't be manufactured the same straightness. You will find the shafts getting damaged quite easily by glancing shots, by scrapes. So you will rarely, if ever, have a perfectly straight and flat shaft. And even small inconsistencies will lead to big deviations on target. In contrast, the carbon shafts are machine-made, factory-made, to a very high standard. Even the fairly inexpensive carbon shafts are going to be much straighter and much more consistent per batch than a wooden shaft. So if you're looking for performance and straightness, the carbon shaft is typically a better choice. The wooden shaft does not have that advantage. Even cost-wise, cheap carbon shafts are pretty much nearly the same price as wooden shafts. Some wooden shafts are basically hobby made, you can do it for free, if not for a very low price. But carbon shafts, even cheap ones, are going to be much more consistent. The second significant problem with wooden shafts is that they are not that durable. They will splinter, they will shatter, they will break. An arrow is going to experience a huge amount of deceleration when it impacts the target. So if you're shooting at a hard target or you're shooting at a very close range, these shafts are under a tremendous amount of stress. Now, carbon arrows aren't invincible either. They will experience the same deceleration, but in general, they are much more resilient and durable compared to wooden shafts. Now, is this going to be a huge problem? Generally, no, depending on what you're shooting, how you're training, and so on. If you're shooting a long distance on soft targets, then wooden shafts will fly fine, they'll go in the target, and they won't break. If you're shooting at a short distance target or a denser target, and the example I'm thinking of is if you're doing Turkish archery and you're training in Torba, then you'll be 3 meters away shooting a full weight bow on a target. The arrows will come out at full speed and will snap once they go into target, if not very soon afterwards. When I was at Archery Ascension the other month, I had both my carbon arrows, which are too short for my Turkish bow, and my wooden arrows, which are the right length, but the wooden arrows didn't last that long. The first hour they were okay, but after some more impacts, you could tell they were snapping. I think probably 4 out of 5 shots actually snapped once entering the target, so I was pretty much burning all my arrows. You can see on the ground quite a few broken wooden shafts, very few carbon ones, but a lot of wooden ones. I was told pretty much if you're going to practice tour or just practice in general, then carbon is a much better choice. And in general, carbon will perform much better. We've already said that carbon is going to be straighter, carbon is going to be lighter, it's going to be more aerodynamic, it's going to work better at long range. So if you're trying to maximize accuracy, then carbon arrows will beat wooden arrows most days of the week. So is there any reason to not use carbon arrows in competition? Like I said before, rule set. If the rules stipulate you must use wooden organic arrows, then you've got to use them, and it may be because the spirit of the competition is meant to be as close to tradition as possible. So they won't allow carbon arrows because they are very much modern, and they give an unfair advantage. They kind of defeat the purpose of the competition, and a lot of people want that purist or as close to purist as possible. That said, there is a bit of a push for more leeway as to which divisions are allowed to use this. If I recall correctly, there are more distinctions between different instinctive and traditional classes. So instinctive still uses wooden arrows, whereas the bow hunter division can use trad equipment but with carbon arrows. And this is a much closer reflection to what's being done today, where more and more people, especially those in the field doing hunting, are using carbon arrows even though they may be using traditional equipment. In short, if you're buying a set of arrows to practice with for your traditional archery, carbon arrows, while they may be a bit more expensive up front, are far more customizable, and they are much more economical in the midterm and long run because they are less likely to break and to perform better. So if you're practicing, it's very safe to buy carbon shafts. Wooden shafts are good if you need to use them or if you want to use them. Again, main weaknesses are they're going to be more fragile, they will break more often, and you might find yourself spending more money replacing wooden shafts constantly. So if you're practicing, I highly recommend carbon shafts. They are the best option, whereas wooden shafts, they're nice aesthetically. Though again, you can get aesthetically pleasing carbon shafts as well. You can get wood pattern, even bamboo pattern shafts. So carbon is really the standard today in archery. It's a modern innovation, but you can definitely use them for trad equipment. It's not uncommon for people training for trad competitions to practice with carbon but compete with wooden. Again, just bear in mind that wood arrows will perform differently. They are an organic material, which means that they will perform differently on the day depending on more factors. So you do have to train appropriately with wooden arrows if you need to use them. But in general, carbon is the standard in the industry today. Anyway, I hope this was interesting and helpful. This is NUSensei. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.